umhani uma ekhuluma nefoni kuringa ifoni yami bese thena uMabhena hayi mayaqeda umhani bese ethi uMabhena hamba uqoqa ngiyahamba ngiyaqoqa ngibuya lapho ngiyafasiwa kuthiwa ngene emotweni yokhuluma phambili.
What then happens is that Mugane is busy on the phone, my phone rings, and then Mugane finishes to talk with the person he was talking to. I'm then instructed by Mabhena to go and get dressed. I come back, then the handcuffs are put and then placed in the vehicle.
And were you informed of the case, the particular case for which you were being arrested?
Icala owawuboshelwa lona ingaba walitshelwa yini?
Waze ngikandela mangibuzwe emotweni maqala ngitshena uMabhena ethi nganginguphi makubulawa uSenzo wawukuphi ngithi ngibulala uSenzo ngihlanganisa nendawo zamalanga ngangibulala umfowethu.
It was in the vehicle when I first heard about it, my lord, when Mabhena asked me about the killing of Senzo as to where I was on that day. I said,
and remember that Brigadier Kininda told the court that he never knew Mjiako before the Senzo trial. He said he never met him when he was still working for the SAPS and so on. But clearly Kininda, I think there is being dishonest, because it's highly impossible that you work with someone in the same environment and you don't know him. So clearly Kininda and Mjiako, I suspect that they colluded in order to get this confession from Mwanendans. Remember that in 2013, Mjiako, he was charged in connection with the cigarette truck and hijacking incident, which subsequently led to his suspension from the CPS. He then resigned from the police before the disciplinary hearing. So if he was honest in that internal DC, I think he was not going to resign. The people that resigns are those that are guilty. So you can see that Mjiako has got that dodgy past in him, which is why I think he was used in this case to confuse Ntanzi and get that fake confession for the state. I can say it without any shadow of contradiction or without any fear of contradiction that Mjiako was used by the state because he previously worked for them as an SAPS investigator and so on. So Mjiako, I think in this case, I think the state should have called him to prove that Ntanzi appointed him. They should then, Ubaloyi or Usbanda are going to get a chance to clear all this cloud over his head, because Ntanzi is saying Lamuntu Maz. He only saw him for the first time on the 24th of June 2020. That is the day when Ntanzi allegedly made the fake confession before Magistrate Shonye. I think that was in, when was it? I think that was before he appeared in Boxback Magistrates Court together with the likes of Okadla, Ontuli, and the likes of Umusbi. So clearly, Ntanzi never confessed. And something interesting that I heard and observed is that when Colonel Rapad was testifying, I think it was also during the trial, within the trial, he said Ntanzi was in a sober state. And he said he was very clear when he made that first confession. But now, Ntanzi's response in court, he said, how could have been in a good state, because I had never had a bath for about 4 to 5 days. I never had any clothes to change. So umqondo wakhe lapho wawuzoba kanjani in a sober and proper state. There was a very a good response by Bongani. I hope the judge was listening. So that confession was not made when he was in a good sober state. That is a fact. So with this judge, how did he provisionally accept this confession in the first place? It's very strange, which he just said, okay, I believe the police, I believe Kininda, and that's Magistrate Tronye. The second problem is that confession, when it was made, the second one, why was it made? Because now, if the first confession was correct, the one that was made in front of Rapado, why there's a need for the second confession? Clearly, the state had forgotten to cook some things there when the confession was taken by Rapado. That's the only reason. The state forgot to cook, so they needed to make a second confession in front of a magistrate so that it would have some substance and some reliability. But you can see that among our law, if Danzi had confessed for the first time before Colonel Rapado, there was going to be no need to make that fake confession before the magistrate. Clearly, the state was trying to make sure that they put everything in the second confession to make sure that they get a guilty verdict. That's it. And what is strange is that Ulo Umusibi in his first confession, where he mentions Abu Makimbi and Markop Teles. So where is that found in Danzi's confession? Because it's nowhere to be seen. It is nowhere to be seen. So the dumbest thing that they did was to get a confession from two different individuals, yet it is different. When you cook, you must make sure that you cook and make the facts similar so that it could be believable. So the state didn't realize that Makimbi and Makom Tembu were already in prison when Senzo was shot on 26 October 2014. That's the first sign you would see these guys are cooking. Initially, they wanted to charge the Muteli's brothers, Omakimbi and Umako, not knowing they are already in prison. So if you still believe in the state nonsense, I think there's something wrong here in your grey matter, because it's quite clear that this case was fabricated from the beginning up to this point, and the state want us to believe that they've got the right accused. It's shocking to hear that. So I mean, I'm just hoping that Ntanzi will just wrap up his testimony, because I do not like to hear him repeating the same thing, because you can hear the pain in his voice. It reminds him of something traumatic that occurred on the day that he was forced to sign that confession before Rapadu, and secondly, when he had to do it all over again in the presence of the Magistrate Tronye. But the important factor in this case for me is the DNA, which excludes these guys. Remember, in October 2023, the DNA expert came to court, and according to him, the DNA analysis shows that none of the accused could be placed in the house in Fosoras on that day. The DNA expert said all 5 accused are excluded from the sample taken from the house. That is the most important part of the evidence in this case, because it proves that all 5 accused were not at the Kumal household on the day when Senzo was shot. DNA could not link any of these guys. So, Constable Zungu, how can you believe Zungu over DNA? Because DNA does not lie. DNA cannot be cooked, which is why Ukinenda and Baloi could not do anything about it, because DNA was done by an expert that doesn't work within the SAPS, so they do not have control over him. With all the money that they have, they could not fake the DNA results, because it is done by a doctor who is not an SAPS. They could fake the confession because it is taken by one of them, or Rapadu and so on. Those are the people that are within the police environment. So it's easy to control them and make sure that they give the outcome that they wish for. So we all know that Ukosable Zungu lied, and he was exposed by his father when he testified before the court. He told us that his son told him what he only testified in court because he was promised a promotion within the SAPS. That is a very important factor in this case. Baba wakhe uthi ingane yakhe testified in court ngoba efuna promotion le athenjiswa wena emsebenzini. And if you clearly follow this case from start to this point, all the officers that were involved in the Mayo case and helped state have been promoted in some way or another. You can start from Umosi. Before this case, or before the 26th of October 2014, Umosi was just an ordinary constable, but after he testified in the Mayo case, he's now a sergeant. Why? Because he supported the state narrative of the intruder. But if you remember earlier on, the first statement that was deposed by Umosi, he said the crime scene could have been compromised because he was called very late to take the swabs and take on the fingerprints and so on. But later on, when he came to court, he's singing a different tune. He's saying, "No, my lord, the crime scene was never compromised. The evidence was kept intact." But how was the evidence kept intact? Because the house was left there open for anyone to move in, up and down, and so on. Remember that even Shadexby came before Umosi and held a meeting in that house to discuss, okay, how are they going to cover up for the likes of Longo and so on. So Umosi, he lied and then got a promotion. The same happens to the likes of Abo, Rapatu and others. Promotion after lying in court. But it is the opposite when it comes to the post officers that support the narrative contained in Docket 275. Abu Wanrof Samakubu, he had to resign from the Hawks because he was being harassed day in and day out. Remember that in January last year, his house, there was an intruder that entered his house. Luckily, he was not in the house. His son was there. He pressed the panic button, and then the intruders ran away in a Toyota Corolla. But ultimately, Umakubo had to resign from the Hawks because of the torture. Because when I support the narrative state, so you can see that if you support the state narrative, you get the promotion. But if you don't, hell follows you, and your life become a misery. Which is what happened to Umakubo. The same happened to Uchos Buchelis. Buchelis is the one that opened Docket 275 with Makubo. After that, she was harassed and abused. Then later on, she was then demoted. So you can see with Lentole, it is cooked from the highest individual in the police infrastructure. But we shall see what will happen. But the main thing is that the DNA did not support the case Kininda, which is why he got these confessions from Undanzi and Umusibi. Danzi tortured for days, driven around up until he confessed because he wanted to save his life. But Ramosopile, he needs to make sure that he gets another witness that will help to collaborate with stories Bwandans. The most important thing for me, it is the alibi. Why go on the 26th of October 2014? I'm sure his relatives, his friends somewhere out there, they know which way, so they can come before court and say, yes, I know on this day, Ntanzi was in KZN or he was wherever he was. This is very important, Uti. Work on the alibi so that they can further contradict the lies that were told by Constable Zungu. Remember, Constable Zungu said all 5 men were at Kwabini's house on the 26th of October 2014. He said they arrived early, about 3 or 2 p.m. Badlinyama, then they drank alcohol. Later on, they went to Chops to refill because they drank Jameson and no beer. Then later on, he said they left the hostel and came back after 9 p.m. He said when they came back, they were wearing hoodies and had guns and so on. Then he asked them how I was still doing this illegal stuff and so on. But the same Constable Zungu did not report the matter to the police for about 4 years. He kept quiet for 4 years. But later on now, he's saying he was there in the hostel and he suspected that they are the ones that were involved in the killing of Mayor because they announced the death of Senzo Mayor before it was announced in the news. But he kept quiet for 4 years. So clearly he's lying. And Kwabini came to court and told us, no, my lord, these guys were not at my house in 2014, but some of them were there in 2017. So Zungu fabricated the story that happened in 2017 and made it as if it happened in 2014. So that's the crux of the evidence given by Constable Zungu. But it was debunked by Kwabini and to some extent Makosonke and Ubaba Absalom Zungu. So Intabalagi Ntanzi must also bring someone that's going to give him a proper alibi and say, on this day, Ntanzi was here with me and so on. So that is what Ramosepeli needs to do. He needs to bring on someone that will confirm Ntanzi's alibi. He does not need to call anyone else because after that alibi, he does not need anyone else because Absalom Zungu and Kwabini in some instances they've cleared him because if they say Wayangeko, accused 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that includes him. So the evidence by Kwabini, Makosonke, as well as Baba Absalom Zungu has so far also helped Ntanzi. But alibi for me is very important that Ramosepeli gets someone to come and tell the court. But because the state did not call Umjiago to confirm or deny that he was Ntanzi's lawyer, I think the judge should not then have accepted the confession because we didn't hear from the so-called Ntanzi's lawyer. So that should have made sure Uracha does not accept the confession. However, Rambizang and the bizarre part is that Ntanzi was arrested on the 16th of June 2020 and the confession is made 4 days later without a proper consultation. So Umjiago, where did he get the time to go through the docket and so on? So you can see that Umjiago is part of this nonsense. If he had read the docket and so on, he was not going to come and say Ntanzi confess, which is why I believe Ntanzi that offer of 3 million rand to confess he rejected. I believe Ntanzi tell the truth there. The police wanted this suspect to be quickly arrested and then found guilty so that they can tell the Mayor family we have solved the case, which is why they brought Umjiago and others to help them. So the state failed to call Umjiago, so the judge should not have accepted the confession. If Baloy had called Umjiago, many things were going to be cleared. The first question was going to be, Umjiago, when did you consult Ntanzi? You tell us the date, and then we can go to the police to the police record to see umjiyako wamvashela Ntanzi, because that's very important. If you consult, it means you have to go to a place where Ntanzi is kept in prison or at the police cell, but that never happened. There's no record of that. So where did Mjiyako consult Ntanzi? We need that on record so that we can see which state is telling the truth. But because they are lying, they are not gonna tell us when did he consult him. It's very important before you go or appear in court, there must be a consultation. But in this case, there is no record of that. But we shall see. So I think what's going to happen next week, Advocate Baloyi, I think he will get a chance there to cross-examine Ntanzi, and I'm sure he's going to ask the same question that he asked during the trial, But ultimately, this judge, I think, is going to find this guy guilty, and then the defense will have to go to appeal in the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. That is where these guys will get justice, because there are 5 judges that sit there and listen to the argument, and then they will listen to this court record and hear that the defense did indeed create reasonable doubt. There was no reason to find these guys guilty. Then the decision of Rata will be overturned, and these guys will be found not guilty. That is the day that Ntanzi will be finally released, because he has no any other pending case. Remember, we were told that when he was arrested for the Nongoma case, but that Nongoma case started and finished without Ntanzi ever appearing in court. So the Nongoma case was just used to keep Ntanzi in prison. They saying they arrested him for the Nongoma case. They did that because they did not have evidence to keep Ntanzi in prison. So they created a fabrication so that they can get him for the Meyiwa case. If he was indeed involved in the Nongoma case, then he was going to appear in Nongoma Magistrate Court alongside Councillor Buthelezi, who was charged, but that was never charged. Buthelezi was the only one that appeared there, which shows that the state is lying. Nongoma case did not involve Ntanzi. It was just an excuse to arrest Ntanzi so that they can keep him in prison and then torture him and then get that fake confession, which brought us to court till this day. So we shall see next week, but I'm hoping that once Ntanzi is done testifying with Ramsepele, hopefully he can bring someone that can confirm Ntanzi's alibi, and then